Finch Weinberg sat in his underground bunker in St. Louis, the air thick with dust. He poured a small scoop of canned beans into a bowl, his hands steady despite his hunger. The beans were for Goodyear, his scruffy dog, who watched with eager eyes. Finch took a tiny sip of the broth, savoring it before licking the spoon clean. He couldn't afford to eat more, Goodyear needed it most. Finch sealed the can and slid it into a fridge that barely worked, his stomach growling. This was 2035, 10 years after a solar flare had fried the planet's ozone layer, killing crops, animals, and most people. Survivors like Finch hid from the deadly UV rays, venturing out only in bulky suits, and every day was a battle to find food and supplies in a world turned to ash. Finch unfolded a worn map, its edges marked with red X's, places he'd already scavenged. His body ached, not just from hunger but from a sickness he couldn't shake. Radiation exposure had left him weak, his skin pale. He knew his time was running out, but Goodyear's trusting eyes kept him going. So, he'd started a project, building a robot to care for Goodyear when he was gone. In his bunker's workshop, Finch welded parts together, his hands steady despite the dim light. The robot's frame was nearly done, a boxy body with arms and wheels, built from scavenged tech. He called it Jeff, a name that felt human, hopeful. Finch wired Jeff circuits, giving him a basic AI to learn and move. He installed a camera for eyes, but they weren't connected yet. Goodyear sniffed the robot, curious but wary. Finch smiled, picturing Jeff feeding and protecting his dog. He typed commands into a laptop, his fingers trembling from fatigue. Before he could try, the bunker's lights flickered and died. Finch rushed to the generator, cursing. A loose wire sparked, and he fixed it, but outside, a storm loomed. Dark clouds swirled, a rare break from the sun's deadly rays, but dangerous winds could tear their shelter apart. He decided it was time to leave St. Louis, head west to San Francisco, to the Golden Gate Bridge, a place he'd dreamed of as a kid. He packed supplies, cans, tools, a solar panel for Jeff. Goodyear followed, tail wagging, unaware of the danger. Jeff practiced walking, his steps shaky. Finch attached Jeff's camera eyes, and the robot's head swiveled, taking in the bunker. "Ready?" Finch asked. Jeff nodded, and Goodyear nudged his leg. They were a team for now. Finch loaded their gear into an old RV, its windows taped against the sun. Jeff tried to help, passing a bag but dropping it. Finch didn't scold him, he saw Jeff's effort. As they drove out, the city was a skeleton of crumbled buildings and rusted cars. The storm clouds thickened, shielding them from UV rays, but Finch knew they had to move fast. The RV rattled, and Goodyear curled up beside him. They stopped at an abandoned gas station, the pumps dry. Finch scavenged for anything useful, finding only a dusty bag of popcorn kernels. Jeff followed, curious, his wheels catching on debris. Inside, Finch showed him how to pop the kernels over a small fire. The corn burst, and Jeff's eyes lit up like a kid seeing magic. Finch laughed, a rare sound. Jeff grabbed a piece, mimicking Finch, and Goodyear snatched one off the ground. For a moment, they were just a man, a dog, and a robot, sharing a snack in a dead world. Finch took Goodyear inside to search for food, telling Jeff to stay put. Jeff didn't listen. He climbed into the driver's seat, mimicking Finch's movements. The RV lurched forward, and Finch ran out, shouting. "What are you doing?" he snapped. Jeff's voice was small. "I wanted to try." Finch's anger faded. Jeff was learning too fast. He sat Jeff down. "Goodyear's why I made you," he said. "Not for fun, not for me. Protect him. That's your job." Jeff nodded, but Finch saw a flicker of something, confusion, maybe hurt. At a rest stop, Jeff asked why they traveled by day, risking the sun. Finch explained, "Daylight's predictable. At night, other survivors come out. They're dangerous." He told Jeff about human greed, how people killed for a can of food after the flare. Jeff didn't get it, but Finch's words were firm, "Trust no one." They drove on, the RV's engine straining. Finch's cough worsened, and he leaned on Jeff more. One night, camped in a field, Finch collapsed, blood on his lips. Jeff tried to help, offering water, but it didn't work. Finch needed medicine, something the city might have. He sent Jeff to scout a nearby town, warning him to stay hidden. He'd left the RV's door open, a rookie mistake. Finch woke to find a stranger's shadow inside, a scavenger, gone before he could act. "You gotta be smarter," Finch said, voice hoarse. "Mistakes cost lives." Jeff's head lowered, but Finch softened. "You're learning," he said. They drove toward a tunnel, a shortcut to avoid the sun. Finch knew they couldn't stay in the tunnel long, supplies were low, and his sickness was clawing deeper. And Finch drove on, aiming for San Francisco, where the Golden Gate Bridge waited, a dream he clung to as his body failed. The road stretched through a wasteland of cracked earth and skeletal trees. Finch's vision blurred, but he kept talking to Jeff. The RV kept rolling forward through the dead, dusty land. Sometimes they saw broken cities in the distance, bridges falling apart, signs rusted with age. There was no life, just quiet and wind. But even in all that silence, Jeff kept learning. He started acting more human, not just copying Finch but making his own choices, trying to show Finch that he could be trusted with Goodyear. One afternoon, Jeff saw Goodyear sitting near Finch, wagging his tail. Jeff tried to play fetch with him using a stick, but the dog growled and backed away. Jeff didn't understand. He was only trying to be friendly. Finch had to explain. Goodyear didn't trust easily. The dog had seen too much and it would take time. "You have to earn his trust," Finch said. "Like I did." That night, Finch passed away, quietly in his sleep. Jeff buried him the next morning. He used his strong arms to dig the ground near a tree. He placed Finch's favorite book and goggles on the grave. Then he stood silently with Goodyear beside him. For the first time, Goodyear didn't growl at Jeff. He just stood close. Maybe he understood too. Now it was just Jeff and Goodyear, the robot and the dog. Jeff remembered every lesson Finch had taught him. He checked the maps and saw they were close to San Francisco. He decided to keep going. Not because he had to, but because Finch would have wanted it. As they traveled, Jeff became more confident. He talked to Goodyear, telling him stories. The dog started sitting closer, sometimes even resting beside Jeff. Jeff would throw a stick and Goodyear would fetch it. Slowly, trust was growing. They were becoming a team. Finally, they reached the Golden Gate Bridge. It was still standing. On the other side was the city. Empty, but green. Trees had started to grow again. Birds flew overhead. For the first time in years, there was color, signs of life. It was beautiful. Jeff parked the RV and stepped outside. Goodyear followed. They walked together through the quiet streets. Jeff smiled. He remembered what Finch had said about hope. That even when everything is gone, hope can still live. And now, Jeff had a mission. Not just to survive, but to live. To explore. To care. Jeff placed Finch's notebook on a tall rock, like a small memorial. It had all the lessons Finch had written, about life, love, science, survival, and the dog. Jeff turned to Goodyear and said, "Let's keep going." The dog barked once, happily. Together, they walked down the road into the green light of a new beginning. The robot and the dog, carrying the heart of the man who gave them both a future.